of course, this year is quite an appropriate year to be talking about technology and our concern about technology, it being the 200th anniversary of the Luddite trials in the UK. So this is a problem that's been with us for a while. I'm interested in the sort of sense of anxiety amongst us. And this seems to me to contrast very much with Peter Drucker's work. Peter Drucker, who, coming from Vienna in bad times and had every reason to be pessimistic, came to America and I think was very optimistic. And I'm wondering about how we inject a spirit of optimism. So Andrew was talking about bringing people back in. And I think that the issue is people are inherently optimistic, and therefore we need to find ways of talking about this situation to let our optimism shine through. Well, I'm an academic and I'm reaching the end of my career, and one of the things that happens as you get older is that your problem focus shifts. So I'm interested in something that Charles-Edouard touched on, which is the state of society, and I know that Henry's interested in exactly the same thing. So in order to try and clarify this a little bit, I thought it would be interesting to see that we have three different conversations going on here. One which we might call a technical or technological discussion, which on the whole I think is optimistic. It's sort of upwards and onwards, and I think Tom's talk is very much upwards and onwards. And we're dealing with the endless frontier and so forth. And then behind this is, I presume, the discussion that concerns the bulk of the audience, which is, what does this mean for business? Are these technological changes going to have the wheel fall off the business? And I like to think about this as not only windows of opportunity opening and closing very rapidly, but also, since I believe that all business is about monopoly, the new opportunities for the establishment of new monopolies, and these are very exciting and very challenging times. But I think the darkness that's leading to some anxiety and pessimism is really primarily political. And we can either think that technology is going to induce structural unemployment, and we are left with, in the words that I think Tom mentioned, the hordes with zero economic value. And then we can either think that the problem is, how do we prevent that happening? Or the alternative agenda, which I think is my agenda, is how do we imagine a society in which there are large numbers of people who are not actually taking part in the workplace as we currently define it? So I'm much concerned with inequity, with what some people know as the precariat. And in corresponding with Adi before this talk, I was saying we may take a leaf out of Piketty's large book at 700 pages, plenty of leaves to take out, and say maybe our sense of the impact, the social and economic impact of technology is reflecting an odd and abnormal period between 1930 and 1980. And maybe the structural unemployment in the future is going to remind us that the instruments, the ways we had of containing technology's impact through increased consumerism and so forth are no longer available to us, and that we're really going to have to grapple with what I think is the most fundamental political problem of dealing with a very unequal society in which a very large number of people are never going to get onto the platforms to do the coding and so forth. And I think that that, in fact, is the reason for our anxiety.
So let me, before we move on to read, let me question one thing. I'm also familiar with Piketty in the sense that I have that big book on my bedside table. I've had it there almost since it was published.
How many people have actually read it in the room? Pretty good. Congratulations. Yes, Andrew, I'm surprised you got through.
That was 7 people, by the way.
Yeah, right. Well, it's not bad.
Okay.
Not bad. Okay.
But the question is, Our conversations about technology, almost always, at least one aspect is the dark side, the darkness, and you mentioned it, and we talk about opportunities and challenges. I worry sometimes that that's a knee-jerk response that isn't necessarily valid. That it is human nature to the initial version of robots was a sort of frightful one, and it's informed our thinking about humanoid robots ever since. Despite what they really are, kind of in reality, and how they are contributing to business, contributing to society, et cetera. And I do want to question the assumption that there is this dark side, that the unemployment that you see that is undeniable, could be transient, that we adapt and we move on to other things. So I want to challenge you a little bit, the notion that technology carries this sort of dark, negative side.
Fine.
Good. Well, I think I won that argument. No, I mean, do you think it's evident, or?
Well, 50 years. I was thinking, and coming to the end, I was thinking it was 50 years ago when I was a production engineer at Rolls-Royce, and my everyday task was to think how to automate jobs in order to make them less susceptible to human error, in order to produce greater quality. My focus all of the time was how to displace labor. And I think business is a magnificent instrument for deploying new technology in the pursuit of economic gain. I think that the issues that I'm interested in about the precariat and the structural unemployment, I think these are essentially governmental issues. Now, I think that business does what business does. I do not think that it behooves business people to pretend that they can do the work of government. And at the same time, I think that government should do the work that government does and should minimize their interference in business. And I think new technology should be seen primarily from a business point of view as a positive, upwards and onwards opportunity. I think the social, economic, psychological costs of technological advance and structural unemployment are profoundly governmental tasks. So I think that what this is precipitating is a move towards a politics for a society in which a substantial proportion of truly able people are not able to find work. This is a new society for us. And I think this is, for me, this is what I read from Piketty's book, that once these artificial temporary situations are withdrawn, then from Piketty's point of view, R will be greater than G, and the corresponding inequities that we're seeing in society will increase. This is a governmental problem, not a business problem.
Okay. Rita, I think if you if you could talk a little bit about, I guess, the transformation of work that you've seen to date, and extrapolate a little bit where we're going in the future, we'll sort of tease out some more of these ideas.